You ever walk into a room expecting warmth and instead feel the kind of cold that settles in your bones? That was me, Ethan, stepping into a family vacation I'd been foolish enough to look forward to. Hilton Head was stunning, sure. Miles of white sand, tall palms slicing the wind, the ocean humming like some quiet promise. Our villa sat tucked into the landscape like a secret private, luxurious, quiet. But all I felt was noise, the kind you can't hear, only sense, the kind that presses on your skin like judgment. I arrived with my husband Lucas and his parents, Margaret and William. It wasn't our first trip together, but I hoped it would be different, that they'd finally see me, that I wouldn't feel like a puzzle piece from the wrong box. Spoiler, I was wrong. That first night we went out to eat some fancy place with candlelight and linen napkins folded like swans. The waiter guided us to a long table set for 6, but just as I reached for the chair beside, "Lucas," William said, "there must be a mistake. He needs his own table." I remember blinking, a beat too long, thinking the first must have heard it wrong. "I'm sorry?" Margaret didn't even lift her eyes from the wine list. "It's just how we do things." Lucas shrugged God, the way he always shrugs, and muttered, "It's their way." So I sat at a different table, alone. Alone in the soft glow of restaurant light. Alone while forks clinked against plates, and laughter floated like smoke from their table. I smiled at the waiter and ordered something I didn't taste. That night, I stared at the ceiling fan spinning above our bed, trying to find logic in humiliation. Lucas called it tradition. I called it erasure, but I stayed. I stayed because I still believed that maybe I could earn my place in their orbit. That love would be enough. I was wrong about that too. The next morning, I woke up early. There's something sacred about mornings near the ocean. The light comes in like it's trying not to wake anyone. Quiet, careful, hopeful. I got dressed and headed downstairs, assuming we'd all go to breakfast together. Maybe yesterday had just been some awkward glitch in the family matrix. Maybe it was over, but the dining room was empty. I waited by the windows, checked my phone. Nothing. I texted Lucas. No response. Eventually, I wandered the resort, scanning every patio and terrace until I found them already seated at a large table, mid-meal. Margaret laughed at something William had said. Lucas sipped his coffee. They looked like a vacation brochure. I stood there for a beat too long before walking over. "Why didn't anyone tell me you came down?" William barely acknowledged me. "We assumed you'd figure it out." Margaret didn't even look up. "It's just how we do things." Lucas didn't stop chewing, didn't stop acting like this was completely, painfully normal. That was the moment something cracked. Not loud, not obvious, but something inside me shifted like a hairline fracture in porcelain. And once it starts, you can't unbreak it. I knew then, with the kind of clarity I wish I'd had years ago, I wasn't part of this family. I never had been. And Lucas, he wasn't on my side. Not really. Not where it counted. The rest of the trip followed the same script. Every breakfast, I ate alone. Every group outing, they forgot to include me. They went on a private boat tour. I saw it in Josh's Instagram story. A wine tasting? I passed them in the lobby, dressed to the nines, gliding past me like ghosts. When I asked Lucas why he hadn't told me, he gave me that same tired shrug. It's just their way. By the 4th day, I stopped trying, stopped waiting, stopped hoping. They wanted me separate? Fine, but I had my own way too, and they were about to learn just how different it was. They were sipping Chardonnay under string lights, toasting to their flawless itinerary. I was in the villa bedroom, barefoot, calm, sitting on the edge of the bed with my laptop open and a smile I hadn't felt in days. Every detail, every plan, every luxury they were enjoying, that was me. My name, my card, my reservations. I had booked this trip down to the spa appointment. Margaret couldn't stop gushing about. I remembered her exact words weeks ago. "Ethan, you just handle it. You're good at details." Yes, I am. So I handled it. I opened the hotel confirmation. Canceled. Rental car? Gone. Waterfront dinner. Lucas had been bragging about? Not anymore. The spa day Margaret kept marking with pink highlighter in her planner? Wiped clean. Every plan, mine to create. And now, mine to dismantle. By the time they were clinking glasses and complimenting the seared scallops, I had packed my suitcase, double-checked my inbox, and slid the villa key onto the nightstand. Then I drove away. I didn't leave a note, didn't slam a door, just took the rental car and disappeared into the night like mist off the ocean. Charleston was a 2-hour drive, but it felt like exhaling after years of holding my breath. I arrived at a boutique hotel with a private balcony and a bed that didn't carry the weight of pretense. I ordered room service, curled up with a blanket, and watched the tide roll in. It was the first time I'd felt like myself in months. The next morning, the messages began. Lucas called first. I let it ring, then Margaret, then William. The first placed the phone face down and sipped my coffee in peace. Eventually, curiosity got the better of me. I flipped my phone over and saw the storm unfolding. Lucas, where are you? Lucas, what the hell is going on? Lucas, you need to fix this now. Fix this? I picked up the next call, just for fun. Where are you? He snapped the second I answered. Charleston, the first said, taking a slow sip of coffee. Charleston, what the hell are you doing there? Enjoying my breakfast. Silence. Then the distant sound of chaos behind him, Margaret yelling. William demanding to speak with the manager. You canceled everything, Lucas finally hissed. His voice dropped, like even he couldn't believe it. Do you have any idea what you've done? Oh no, I said, my tone syrupy with fake concern. That must be so uncomfortable. Another pause. This one longer. He was realizing what I'd done, realizing that I'd used his favorite line against him. You all wanted me separate, I said, so I gave you what you wanted. You're insane, he growled. You need to come back, I laughed. No, Lucas, I really don't. And I hung up. Over the next 24 hours, the fallout hit them like a tidal wave. The hotel was fully booked, their rooms gone. They scrambled for last-minute accommodations and ended up in a roadside motel off the main highway, the kind with buzzing lights and a front desk behind bulletproof glass. No rental car meant they had to Uber everywhere. Hilton Head isn't known for its ride-share abundance. Surge pricing turned short trips into financial punches. And that upscale dinner Lucas had been hyping for weeks, fully booked, they ended up in a tourist trap where the shrimp tasted like wet cardboard and toddlers screamed through every course. Margaret threw a full-blown tantrum at the spa. When she realized her appointment had been deleted, I imagined the look on her face as she stormed the reception desk, only to be met with a polite, "Sorry, ma'am, your name isn't on the schedule." I knew all of this because Lucas kept texting me, each message growing more frantic than the last. Lucas, you seriously just left us like this? Lucas, Mom is furious. Lucas, she was humiliated at the spa. Lucas, Dad's freaking out about the dinner. Lucas, I hope you're happy. I was. It would have ended there. That could have been the crescendo, the karmic storm. But fate had more to say. That afternoon, I got a message from Josh Lucas's cousin. Josh, hey, heard what happened. Honestly, good for you. I blinked. Josh and I were cordial but not close. I stared at the message, confused. Me? What do you mean? His reply made my blood run cold. Josh, they did the same thing to Lucas's ex-wife. Made her sit separately. Ignored her the whole trip. She left halfway through. Filed for divorce a month later. My stomach turned. Lucas had told me that marriage just didn't work out, that they drifted apart. Nothing dramatic. I had never questioned it. But now, me, why didn't anyone tell me? Josh's answer. Josh, he never warned you? Yeah, that tracks. Honestly, you're not even the second. You're the third. My hands trembled. Lucas hadn't just stood by and let it happen. He knew it would happen, and he let it anyway. That night, Lucas called again. This time, I answered. You need to fix this, he said, voice tight. No, I replied. You knew what they were going to do, and you let it happen. Silence. Then, who told you that? I smiled. So it's true. More silence, then a sigh. My parents can be difficult, but they mean well. No, Lucas. They don't even see me as real. And you? You let them erase me. I didn't mean. You didn't stop it. He didn't deny it. Come back, he pleaded. Let's talk. I stared out over Charleston's skyline, the moonlight pooling across rooftops like a second ocean. I already did, I said softly, and I'm done listening. And then I hung up on the man who once promised to protect me. I didn't sleep that night. It wasn't just the revelations, though those alone could have leveled me. It was the weight of all the things I hadn't questioned, the patterns I'd written off as quirks, the silence I'd mistaken for peace. Lucas had lied, not just by omission, but by architecture. He'd built a version of the past where I didn't need to worry, didn't need to ask, didn't need to dig. And I'd accepted it like a fool eager for stability. But now, I wanted answers. I opened Facebook and typed her name, Claire, Lucas's ex-wife, the woman who, apparently, sat at a separate table long before I did. Her profile was locked down, but I found her sister Danielle. Public posts, wide open. I scrolled until I hit one from 2 years ago. Never let a man's family decide your worth. My sister deserved better. We all tried to warn her. Never again. Below that, a familiar name, Josh, the cousin who messaged me earlier. I wish she'd listened. At least she's free now. It was like reading my own future written in past tense. My pulse thudded in my ears. I hesitated, then typed, "Me, hey, this is going to sound really random, but I think we need to talk." She replied within minutes. "Danielle, I was wondering when you'd reach out." Something in my chest folded in on itself. Me. "So, you know who I am, Danielle?" "Yeah. We've been waiting, honestly. You're not the first." Claire wasn't the first either. I sat still, staring, digesting, and then the truth unfurled like smoke from a fire that had always been burning behind closed doors. "Danielle, Lucas has done this before, more than once. His parents have a system. Every partner he brings around they test, isolate, degrade, then claim it's just their way. And Lucas? He lets them. Me. Why didn't anyone warn me?" "Danielle, we tried. But he keeps his partners siloed. Tells them not to talk to bitter exes. Spins the story first. Did he tell you Claire was too emotional? That she couldn't handle his family?" I closed my eyes. He had. He called Claire fragile. Said she made drama out of nothing. That his parents gave her space and she took it as rejection. But now I could see it clear as day. It was a script. And I had been cast in the next installment. And this time, they picked the wrong character. The next morning, my phone buzzed. "Unknown number, MAM. This is Officer Daniels with the Hilton Head Police Department. We need to speak with you regarding a missing persons report filed by your husband." My breath caught. I called back immediately. "I'm not missing," I said the moment the officer picked up. A pause. "Then, so you left Hilton Head voluntarily?" "Yes, of course I did. I told my husband where I was. He's been calling me nonstop." He sighed. "Well, Mr. Langley filed a report stating that you left without warning, haven't responded, and that he feared for your safety." "No," I snapped, my voice shaking now. "He's not afraid. He's trying to force me to come back." Another pause. "Would you like to file a formal no-contact request?" I blinked. The question hung there, thick with implication. "Yes," I said, "I would." It wasn't just about spite anymore. It was about space, sanity, sovereignty, and it wasn't even noon when the next bomb dropped. Susan messaged me first. "Susan, I cannot believe you would humiliate us like this." I actually laughed out loud. "Susan, you made Lucas involve the police. Do you have any idea how this looks?" Oh, I knew exactly how it looked. For the first time, they weren't in control. Then the messages poured in. "Susan, this family has done nothing but try to welcome you. Susan, you're being incredibly selfish. Susan, you need to come back and fix this." And then the final nail. "Susan, if you don't come back, Lucas is going to make things very difficult for you." I froze. It wasn't even subtle. It wasn't masked behind civility or concern. It was a threat, a promise. I stared at the message. "Reread it." My fingers clenched around the phone. This wasn't about tradition. It never was. This was control. It was performance. It was humiliation packaged in family dinner and forced smiles. But now it was war. One cracked my knuckles and booked a hotel conference room. Neutral ground, clean lines, bottled water and a long wooden table, nothing else. I sent one invitation to Lucas, but I knew he'd bring the whole circus. I also invited Josh, not as a spy, not as an ally, just as a mirror, someone to witness this ending. They arrived on time. Margaret's heels hit the floor like accusations. William's glare spoke louder than words. Lucas was pale, tight-lipped, radiating tension like a storm cloud looking for somewhere to strike. Josh walked in last, quiet, hands in his jacket pockets. He gave me a tiny nod. I leaned back in my chair, calm, whole, glad you could all make it. Lucas spoke first. "What the hell is this?" I smiled. "A conversation. One you've been dodging for years," William scoffed. "You think this is funny?" "No," I said. "I think it's pathetic." Margaret's jaw tightened. "You abandoned us," she said sharply. I actually laughed. "You abandoned me the second you pretended I wasn't there. I was a ghost before I ever left." Lucas tried to cut in, but I raised a hand. "No, you talk, you excuse, you spin. I'm here to finish." I turned to Susan. "You threatened me. I was trying to make you see reason, no. You tried to scare me. And Lucas?" I turned back to him. You let them. Lucas ran a hand through his hair. You're blowing this out of proportion. That was when I pulled out my phone. Read it, I said, tossing it onto the table with the messages from Danielle open. He stared, scrolled. His face blanched as the truth soaked in. You knew, I said, and you still let it happen. And then it happened just like I hoped. The crack, the fracture in his facade. He turned to Margaret, his voice shaking. You did this to Claire, didn't you? Silence. Margaret's eyes narrowed. We were just protecting you, Josh muttered. Wow, under his breath. Lucas looked back at me. For the first time, I saw a flicker of something real. Regret? Maybe, but not enough. I can fix this, he said. And just like that, the door slammed shut in my heart. You don't even get it, I whispered. I stood up, adjusted my bag. I'm not coming back. Lucas looked at me like he had just woken up in someone else's life. You're serious? He asked. I'm done, I said. 3 syllables, calm and unshakable. Across the table, Margaret's scoff broke the silence. You're throwing away your marriage over a misunderstanding. No, I said, holding her gaze. You threw it away. You and William and your little tradition of treating people like trash wrapped in courtesy. Lucas just didn't have the spine to stop it. Lucas reached for my arm, his voice more desperate now. Ethan, wait, we can talk about this. I stepped back, not out of fear, but because I didn't want his hands on me. Not anymore. Not after knowing what those hands had not done to protect me. You don't talk, Lucas. You excuse, you minimize. You call cruelty tradition and spin absence into neutrality. He flinched. I'm done listening, I said again. He opened his mouth, but I was already walking toward the door. Where are you going? He called. I turned around one last time. Home, I said. Wherever you're not. Margaret stood up suddenly, lips tight. You can't just leave a marriage. I stared at her, then smiled soft but firm. Watch me. 6 months later, the divorce was finalized. Lucas tried everything. Bargaining, guilt-tripping, promising therapy, threatening legal pushback. None of it landed. I didn't flinch. I didn't answer most of his messages. I had learned that silence isn't weakness, it's armor. I moved to Charleston permanently, found a small apartment with windows that caught the morning sun and creaked when the wind moved through. I bought new cookware, started a part-time gig at a small coastal cafe, and signed up for community art classes, something I hadn't done in years. Josh checked in occasionally, quiet messages. Nothing dramatic. Josh, he finally confronted them, his parents. It didn't go well. Apparently, Lucas had snapped one day, accused his parents of manipulating him his whole life. William called him weak. Margaret cried and claimed I had brainwashed him. It was chaos, predictable, necessary, but none of it changed anything for me. I was already gone. One rainy evening in December, I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. Lucas, I see it now. I'm sorry. I stared at it for a long time. There was no anger, no satisfaction, just quiet. Like hearing the echo of something long dead. I deleted it without replying. Closure isn't always an explosion. Sometimes it's just the steady beat of your own heart, finally uninterrupted. I poured myself a glass of red wine, curled up on my couch, and pulled a blanket around my shoulders. Freedom isn't loud. It's soft. It's subtle. It sounds like silence in the morning. Smells like fresh coffee with no one to answer to. Feels like standing on the shore, watching waves roll in, and knowing that you don't owe anyone your stillness. Not anymore. Final thoughts. I used to believe that love meant patience. That if I endured long enough, I'd be let into the circle. That families were earned, not just married into. But now, I understand belonging shouldn't be conditional. You don't earn humanity. You don't earn a seat at the table when you already brought your own chair. And if the table was never built for you to begin with, you walk away and you build your own. Story 2. You ever have one of those days that start off normal and then punch you in the gut so hard it knocks the wind out of your entire life? That was me, a 23-year-old named Theo, on a boring Tuesday night. I'd just gotten home from my shift at the call center, still wearing my badge and smelling like stale coffee and printer toner. I sat down, cracked open a soda, and decided to check in on my college fund, just to torture myself with what could have been. The account my grandparents set up before they passed away. The one with $80,000, sir, marked specifically for my education. So imagine my confusion when the balance read $0.0. I blinked, refreshed the page. Still zero. Maybe a glitch? Nah. I called the bank, heart racing, fingers trembling. A kind voice confirmed what I already knew but didn't want to believe. Yes, the account was fully withdrawn 3 days ago. By the joint account holders, your parents. Boom. Reality gut punch. See, the account had a condition. I wouldn't have sole control until I turned 25. It was supposed to be a safeguard, a way to ensure the money was used responsibly. They used it all right, just not for me. Still in disbelief, I grabbed my keys and drove to my parents' place. Same house I grew up in. It looked different that night. The porch light was on, but it felt off, cold, like a stranger's home. I noticed 2 cars in the driveway. My sister Maya's Honda and a cherry red Mustang I'd seen too many times. Brent's, her boyfriend. A walking scam with great hair and zero ambition. I didn't knock. I just walked in. There they were, my mom, dad, Maya, and Brent sitting around the dining table like some tech startup dream team. Takeout containers, glasses of wine, and a stack of business documents with Brent Co. stamped across the top. They looked like they were mid-celebration. I didn't waste time. Where's my college fund? Silence fell like a guillotine. My mom took a sip of wine, barely glancing at me. Oh, so you finally noticed, she said, like I'd forgotten my keys, not like they'd committed theft. I looked at her, stunned. What the hell does that mean? My dad chimed in, all calm and patronizing. We used it for something with real potential. Brent's startup. It's an incredible opportunity. I stared. You gave my college fund to him? Maya rolled her eyes. Don't be so dramatic, Theo. Brent's business is going to explode. That money isn't wasted, it's an investment. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. That fund was for school. Grandma and Grandpa left it for me. Mom shrugged. And what were you doing with it? Still talking about learning to code? You've been stuck in that dead-end support job forever. Brent has a vision. He just needed capital. Dad raised his glass. He's going places, son. What's your plan? Sit behind a computer in some basement? Maya leaned back with a smirk. Let it go, Theo. You'll thank us when Brent's company takes off. I looked at Brent. He didn't even flinch, just smiled like he was the second coming of Elon Musk. This guy had failed at 3 businesses already, drove a flashy car he couldn't afford, and wore suits like he was starring in a LinkedIn ad campaign. And they bet everything on him? I gripped the back of the chair, knuckles white. You're going to regret this. Brent leaned forward. And what are you gonna do, man? Sue your parents? The money's already invested. Mom gave a little laugh. We did you a favor. Maybe this will finally get you to wake up and face reality. I didn't scream, didn't cry. I looked at all of them, my mom with her cold contempt, my dad pretending this was leadership, my sister high on borrowed confidence, and Brent, the opportunist. Something inside me broke. Not in a tragic way, in a clean-cut, dead-weight dropping kind of way. I turned and walked out. Let them toast their betrayal. They thought they ended me, but all they did was set something in motion. The plan, I didn't go home and wallow. I didn't punch walls or spiral. I made 2 calls. First, I quit my job. No more wasting time in that tech support pit. Second, I enrolled in a full-time software engineering boot camp. I'd been flirting with it for months, planning to use the college fund to cover it. The irony? I enrolled anyway, with 0 money. I moved out of my modest apartment and into a tiny studio with peeling paint and a heater that groaned like it had asthma. I got a warehouse job in the mornings and worked graveyard shifts at a gas station at night. Every hour between was spent coding. I survived on ramen and gas station coffee. My social life? Non-existent. My bank account? Anemic. My drive? Ruthless. 6 months in, I landed a freelance gig, a WordPress site for a yoga instructor. The pay? Barely covered groceries. But I didn't care. It was something. More gigs came, local restaurants, a vintage clothing store, even a podcast network. I reinvested every cent, paid for the boot camp in chunks, upgraded my hardware, got better. A year and a half later, I got hired at a mid-sized tech startup. Nothing flashy, just a junior dev role with real benefits and a desk I didn't have to share. It was the first time I'd ever felt real stability. Meanwhile, I heard whispers about Brent. Apparently, his luxury gym venture, the one that devoured my college fund, was failing. Turns out, our small-town demographic didn't want to spend $300 a month on eucalyptus towels and Himalayan salt rooms. Shocker. He tried pivoting to elite wellness coaching, then to virtual fitness experiences. Every attempt was more desperate than the last. Eventually, he started looking for new investors, and that's when karma tossed me the ball. 3 months into my new job, I went to a tech mixer downtown, one of those slightly awkward networking events where everyone's pretending not to judge each other's GitHub profiles while nursing cheap drinks. I was chatting with a couple of local developers when I overheard a conversation behind me. A guy named Brent. He pitched some ridiculous pet fashion startup. Wanted 6 figures for luxury dog robes or something. I turned slightly, just enough to eavesdrop without being obvious. Another guy replied, "Yeah, we were considering it until we saw his old gym business numbers. Total disaster. Someone flagged it for us, dodged a bullet." I froze. That was it. That was the moment I knew. I didn't even have to intervene. Brent had walked into the pitch meetings like he was God's gift to startups, probably wearing one of those watches he couldn't afford, and started throwing around buzzwords like disruptive synergy and biometric optimization for pets. But the investors? They'd done their homework. And that's someone who flagged the numbers? That was me. I hadn't slandered him. I didn't need to. I just gave a few people I'd worked with the link to the gym's Yelp page, the Google Maps reviews, a photo of the empty lobby from a public Facebook post, and a short line. If you're thinking about backing Brent, this is how he used his last round of funding. Nothing more, just the truth. A week later, word got around. Brent's funding dried up overnight. He spiraled fast. Suddenly, Maya was blowing up my phone texts, calls, even Instagram DMs. It had been nearly 2 years of total silence from her. And now, "Theo, please, we need to talk. It's urgent." I ignored them all. Then my mom called. She didn't leave a voicemail, but her next call did. "Theo, I know things were said, but we're family. We made a mistake. Please talk to your sister." Still didn't answer. Then came the final message from my dad of all people. "Call me now." I didn't, but I knew something serious had gone down. So I did what anyone would do. I checked Facebook. And there it was, Maya's latest post. A vague, emotional vent about betrayal, failure, and not knowing who to trust anymore. She didn't mention me by name, but the implication was clear. Brent had lost everything. Worse, he'd taken my parents down with him. The collapse a week later. A guy I used to hang out with in high school texted me, "Yo, you hear about Brent putting up your parents' house as collateral?" I stopped walking mid-step. I texted back, "He what? Yeah, for a loan." Got denied, but he tried. Turns out, in one last desperate attempt to keep his gym pet fashion whatever he was doing afloat, Brent had tried to secure a loan. Banks weren't interested. His credit was garbage, and his track record read like a scam artist's resume. So what did he do? He convinced my parents to back him again. This time he used their house. Except the bank didn't buy it. Nobody did. The rumors about his failed ventures had made the rounds. Brent was officially radioactive. And my parents? They were financially ruined. Drained savings, maxed out credit cards, and a house teetering on foreclosure. That's when the real calls started. 27 missed calls in one night. Voicemails, texts, desperate, unraveling. Maya crying, "Please, Theo. Brent is freaking out. He's yelling. He's not the same anymore." My mom, trying to guilt trip me. "You're being cruel. This isn't who we raised you to be. We were wrong, but you can still help us." My dad, angry. "You think this is funny? You're not better than us. You're still nothing." I listened to every single message. Then I turned my phone off, walked to the kitchen, poured myself a drink, and smiled. Because here's the truth, I didn't ruin their lives. They did. I didn't steal from them. I didn't yell. I didn't show up at their house with a bat. I just moved forward. I just worked, quietly, relentlessly. And now the consequences they thought would never reach them, they were knocking. The cracks through mutuals. I started hearing more details. Brent had completely lost it, was blaming Maya for everything, said she didn't believe in him enough, that she wasn't supportive. This, coming from the same guy who once spent $5,000 of my money on logo design alone. Then he turned on my parents. At a family dinner, one of those awkward gatherings, where everyone pretends things aren't collapsing, he apparently lost it. Started yelling at my dad, saying they didn't do enough to help him get the loan approved, like that was their fault. They'd already given him everything, money, trust, my future. And now they weren't useful anymore. He ghosted them a few days later, just dipped. Took the last of the business funds, whatever was left, and disappeared. No note, no explanation, just gone. Maya was devastated. My parents were humiliated. Their little golden boy had turned into a ghost. And I went to work. Had a good day, actually. Pushed a new feature live. Got lunch with my team. Laughed for the first time in a while. Then Then I got a message from a cousin. Your parents just had a breakdown at the country club. I've never seen anything like it. The meltdown, apparently. My mom and dad were at one of their weekly dinners at the club, trying to network, trying to dig themselves out. But people had caught wind of their collapse. No one wanted to be associated with them anymore. They went from flaunting Brent's genius to begging for second chances in a room full of raised eyebrows. My dad lost it. Full-on shouting match with my mom. Blamed her for getting suckered by Brent. She blamed Maya. Maya broke down, said Brent had manipulated her. Said they all did. And all of this in front of half the people they used to brag to about their entrepreneur son-in-law. It was glorious, poetic, and the best part, I didn't have to lift a finger. Their empire wasn't taken down by me. It was built on quicksand. The final visit a few days after the meltdown, my phone buzzed. Security camera alert. Someone at my apartment door. I checked the feed. My mom, hair disheveled, eyes red, no makeup, wearing an old hoodie I hadn't seen since high school. I didn't answer. She knocked. Waited, knocked again. Then she spoke through the door. Theo, please. I stood quietly behind the door. We made a mistake. Brent's gone. He took everything. We might lose the house. Your father doesn't even know I'm here. Her voice cracked. We have nowhere else to go. Silence. Then, softly, please, help us. I waited, let her sit in it. Then I spoke, calm and clear. Remember when you said I was a waste of money? Nothing, just stillness. Funny how things change. And I walked away. Let her stand there in that silence. The same silence I felt when I saw my empty college fund. After she left, I stood in the middle of my apartment for a long time, listening to nothing. No crying, no pleading, no door slamming, just silence, heavy and clean, like the air after a thunderstorm. I expected to feel something guilt maybe, or the ache of years lost, but there was nothing, because somewhere between that empty bank account and her voice cracking through my door, something in me had hardened, not out of hate but from truth, from finally seeing things as they were, not as I wanted them to be. They had chosen, and choices carry weight. I didn't text anyone that day, didn't post anything, didn't brag or rant. I just lived, ate breakfast, wrote some code, walked to the corner store and picked up groceries. Meanwhile, they were drowning in the fallout of their own making. That night, Maya texted again. A different tone now, less begging, more guilt. Theo, I know we were awful, but we're still your family. Doesn't that mean something? I didn't respond, because yeah, blood might be thick, but character is thicker. And loyalty? That's earned, not demanded. A week passed. No new calls, no knocks at the door. But then one evening, while scrolling through my messages, I got a call from Jace, an old friend from school. The kind of friend who doesn't talk often, but always knows the pulse of everything. Dude, he said, no hello. Brent's gone. I paused. What do you mean? Gone? Like vanished. Sold his Mustang. Cleared his accounts. Skipped town. Your parents are freaking out. I think Maya's crashing on someone's couch. I leaned back in my chair, stared at the ceiling. Of course he left. That's what guys like Brent do. They take, they use, and when there's nothing left to squeeze, they ghost. I wasn't even mad. Not at him. Because Brent, he was always going to be Brent. The real betrayal was the people who were supposed to know better. My own family, who looked at me and saw less value than a guy who printed fake business cards and sold them a dream on a dinner napkin. The collapse. Up close a few days later, my cousin Julie called. She's one of the few family members who kept her head down through all of this. She said, your parents are falling apart, like publicly. I didn't ask for details. She gave them anyway. They had this massive fight in the driveway. Your dad was yelling about losing the house, blaming Maya. Maya screaming back. Neighbors heard everything. It's bad. I could imagine it perfectly. My dad, the same man who once told me I'd never make it without their help, now shouting at the daughter he once called the golden child. My mom trying to keep it all together, realizing too late that the ship was sinking and she helped punch the hole in the hull. And me? I was sitting in my new place, small but mine. Paid for with clean work, no debt, no stolen money, just time, sweat, and determination. I walked to my window, looked out at the night. I thought about the last 2 years, the grind, the isolation, the anger I buried under code and caffeine, the sleepless nights, the part-time jobs, the silent meals alone. And I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I was free. Final strings break. Then came the last straw. A text from my father. No greeting, just this, you've made your point. This revenge thing? Grow up. We did what we thought was best. Brent had vision. You didn't. I stared at the message. Read it 3 times. Each word felt like a door slamming shut. Even now, with nothing left, he still believed he was right. Still believed I was some footnote in Brent's failed story. I tapped out a response. Brent still has a future, just not the one you bet on. Then I blocked his number. I sat in that decision for a moment, let the weight of it settle in my chest. I wasn't just cutting off communication. I was cutting the rope that kept tying me to their choices. The climb. That night, I checked my savings, nearly back to $180,000. Almost the exact amount they stole. I smiled. But not out of pride, not out of vengeance, out of peace. Because the money they thought was everything, I had rebuilt it from nothing. And I did it without stealing, lying, or stepping on anyone. That's the part they never understood. Success isn't just about the destination. It's about who you are on the way there. They took a shortcut and fell into a hole. I took the long path, bloody and alone, but I got here with my soul intact. One last visit 2 weeks later, there was another knock. I checked the camera. This time it wasn't just my mom. My dad was with her. They looked tired. Not just physically, but soul tired. The way people look when life finally catches up. I opened the door. No words. My mom's eyes widened, maybe with hope, maybe with shame. She took a step forward, then stopped when I didn't move. "We're not here to fight," she said softly. "We just wanted to talk." I leaned against the door frame. Didn't invite them in. "What do you want?" Dad spoke next. His voice wasn't sharp anymore, just quiet. "We're losing the house." I nodded, waited. Mom wrung her hands together. "We were hoping maybe you could help us. Just until we figure something out." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean me, the deadbeat? The one who was wasting his life? That guy?" They didn't say anything, and that silence, that was the real apology, not the words, the absence of excuses. But I wasn't looking for apologies. I was looking for closure. "You stole from me," I said, calm as a still lake. "Not just the money, the trust, the future I had planned." "We know," my mom whispered. "We were wrong." My dad said nothing. I nodded again, then said the only thing left to say, "Good luck," and I closed the door. Didn't slam it, just let it shut slowly, with the kind of finality you feel in your bones. The door clicked shut behind me, but the silence lingered long after. That kind of quiet, it's not just in the room. It settles in your chest, heavy like snowfall, soft but firm, and I let it sit. I didn't cry, didn't smile either, just breathed. They'd come hoping for a rescue, but what they really wanted was to rewind the clock. Go back to when they could still pretend I wasn't worth betting on. But time doesn't move like that. It doesn't owe anyone a redo. A few hours later, my phone buzzed again. This time, a message from Maya. "You're really not going to help them? After everything?" I read it once, let the words hang. Then I deleted the message without replying. Some people think silence is cold. I think it's honest. Cleaner than any argument. Stronger than any apology. The climb continues. 2 months passed. The seasons changed. Summer slipped into that crisp kind of autumn where the air smells like endings and beginnings at the same time. I was still working, still coding, still building. My company had just promoted me to mid-level DevP pay bump, stock options, my own project to lead. And one afternoon, after wrapping up a demo call, I stepped out onto the balcony of my apartment. A new one, nicer place, better view, paid for with hard work, every inch of it mine. I thought about the kid I was 2 years ago, the one who thought $80,000 was his safety net. I didn't miss him. I respected him. He lit the fire, but he didn't finish the race. I did. The word gets out later that week. I posted a few photos on social media. Nothing flashy, just real. A shot of the front door to my new home, my hand holding the keys, a view of the city's skyline from my desk, glowing in the golden hour light. Caption: "Turns out, the long road is the one worth taking." I tagged no one. I didn't need to, but the message spread anyway. Old classmates started reaching out. "Man, I heard what happened. Respect. Yo, you're really doing it. Congrats." Even distant relatives messaged me. Cousins I hadn't seen since Grandma's funeral. "Your mom's been trying to explain things to the family, but honestly, we get it now." That one made me pause, because I didn't need anyone to pick sides. But it was still good to know people were finally seeing the full picture, their ending. Eventually, the full story trickled in from people close to the chaos. Brent had vanished entirely. No one knew where he was or what name he was going by now. There were whispers of debt collectors and lawsuits, but nothing solid. Maya moved out of state. No forwarding address. Just gone. And my parents? They lost the house. The place I grew up in. The house with the old tree swing in the backyard. The hallway with my childhood height mark scratched into the wall. Sold at auction. Bank got what it could. My parents packed what was left and moved into a one-bedroom rental on the edge of town. My dad picked up a job at a hardware store. My mom started working part-time at a dental office, filing charts. They don't tell people what happened. They just say things got complicated. But the truth is simpler. They gambled and they lost. Peace doesn't always look like forgiveness. Sometimes people ask me if I've forgiven them. I don't really know how to answer that. I'm not angry anymore. I don't wish them harm. I'm not looking for revenge. But forgiveness? That's something deeper. It's not just a word. It's a decision to open the door again. And I'm not ready for that. Maybe I never will be. Some bridges stay burned. Not out of hate, but because we finally learn how to swim on our own. Full circle one morning, about a year after everything, I was walking out of a coffee shop when someone stopped me on the sidewalk. It was one of my dad's old friends, a guy who used to come to our house for barbecues and Sunday football. He looked at me for a second, then smiled. "You're Theo, right?" I nodded. He chuckled, shaking his head. "Your dad used to talk about Brent like he was the next Steve Jobs. Now I see you here, doing your thing. Man, funny how life turns out." I didn't say much, just smiled, told him to take care. But as I walked away, I felt it. Closure. Not because someone else finally saw the truth, but because I didn't need their validation anymore. Final thoughts? This whole story, it wasn't about money. It wasn't even about revenge. It was about value, about being underestimated, dismissed, written off by the people who should have believed in me most. And in the end, I didn't need to scream or destroy or retaliate. I just needed to rise. Now, when I look in the mirror, I don't see the kid who lost everything. I see the man who built everything back on his own. And that's the kind of wealth they can never touch.